January is generally a time of rest and relaxation for teachers in Australia, unless you're someone who just got your very first class. Hi everyone, welcome to Talk and Chalk. I'm Beck. This is my back to school series for 2019. If you haven't seen my other back to school series, it's in one of my playlists. Go check it out. There's heaps of stuff in there that will help you in those first few weeks, like icebreakers, making book covers, setting up a classroom, that sort of a thing. So today's video is about setting up a classroom for the very first time. Now, if this is not your first time setting up a classroom, you're more than welcome to continue watching, and I'd love it if you could contribute your ideas in the comment section below. If you're one of the teachers watching this and you get to the end, check out the comments because you never know what other teachers suggest. Everything that I share on this channel is just my tips and advice, things that I've experienced or that people have experienced around me and I've managed to gain from their wisdom and years of trying things, possibly failing, possibly succeeding. You never know what will work. So the things that I share, again, are just my tips. It's not the be all and end all. It doesn't replace, qualified suggestions from your supervisors or your peers. It's just what I have to share. Nothing is monetized on the channel. I don't sell, I don't spam or anything like that. And if you like this video or get something from it, a thumbs up is always appreciated, as it's a little bit of feedback for me to gauge if people are actually enjoying the content that's on here. So I've got my notes today and I have some video snippets of some things that I filmed in my little learning space. So for those that are new to the channel, I'm currently off class in a mentoring capacity. Last year was just all over the place in things, different things that I did, including doing relieving in the principal role as well, which is a wonderful experience. So it means that the space that I have is not quite a classroom, but I've kept a lot of things from when I was on class. And the last time I was on class with it was 2017, and I have lots of videos from that as well. So what I will do is in the description below here, I'll link all those other videos like flexible learning for newbies, the difference between flexible seating and flexible learning. What were the other ones I was going to put up there? Things like storage and decluttering. You might not need to declutter if you are new to teaching, but it might help you avoid some of the pitfalls that we get into as teachers that sometimes become hoarders. That was me. And things like the teacher's desk conversation that I've been sharing on social media. And if you don't follow me on social media, all those things are in the description below as well. So let's get into it. First of all, congratulations. If this is your first class, that must be really exciting for you. I know a lot of people are saying, take a break, it's holidays, you need to recharge. But if this is your first class, you are fully charged at the moment and you are ready to get in and start doing things. And if you are very lucky, then you've probably got access to your classroom during the holidays, which is wonderful because it means you can start setting up. Here's a warning straight off the bat though, don't over prepare, because classes can change in the first few weeks. I have been in the situation where in a school enrollment numbers changed and classes had to change. So my lovely laminated name tags in the bin, had to do new things. So while it's good to be prepared, try not to over prepare because you never know what changes lie ahead. So before you actually set up that classroom, if this is a school that's new to you, I urge you to go and explore, go find all of the storerooms that have resources, check out the library, because you don't need to go and buy a whole bunch of things if they're in the school, and which is good because it means you don't need to store it. So things like if you're going to have a library in your classroom, like a little reading corner, and you want to rotate that reading material around, your urge is going to be to go hit the secondhand bookstores or hit Big W and get a stack of things for that corner when you don't need to. I highly recommend getting all of those quality texts and having your own copies of those things. But if you just want random reading material for a reading corner, check out the school library, borrow the things that are in there, because at least that way kids have access to it again if they want to read that text again. Double check with your supervisor if you're getting any allocations. Are you getting an allocation of books for your class that will rotate around? Are you getting an allocation of maths equipment, signage or something like that for your classroom? Check that all of those things aren't already being allocated to you. So once you've checked all around of the school, this is now when you're getting into your classroom. So I would urge you to check everything actually is functional in your classroom first. Open every single window, check all of the doors, all of the sliding doors, check your storeroom, check your locks, lights, make sure all the light fixtures work, check all of your PowerPoints, see what works in there. If there's a tape player or something in there, don't know still who has a tape player, but if you've got one, plug it in and see if it works. Make sure your computer works, all that sort of a thing. I would recommend moving some of the cupboards out and checking that it was actually cleaned behind it. Most teachers try to leave a classroom behind, but you never know, and sometimes places are just hard to get to, so check all of that stuff too. If something is on wheels, see if any of the wheels are broken. If you've got adjustable furniture, just test it all out, because you don't want to get your classroom set up and then first day kid sits down and something busted. It's just gonna really not make for a very fluid first day. Check if anything needs cleaning. If you've got a wet area, check all of your taps, make sure the sinks drain, that sort of a thing. So think of it in a functional kind of way, like you're a renter. If you're a renter and you were going to go around and take pictures of anything and make sure you weren't going to be accused of breaking anything, just go and check everything else first. There might still be things like sticky tape or blue tack on windows. Don't worry about cursing the previous teacher that did it. Chances are they did their best to try and clean it. Just give it a clean before you start. Then I highly recommend sitting on the floor. Go and sit on the floor in different parts of the classroom. Sit at some of your tables, and your tables won't necessarily be set up yet, but sit at some just height-wise. Have a look around the room. Are there sunbeams hitting certain spots? Are you getting a reflection from something? Is there something distracting outside the window? Is there a bird's nest right outside the window that's just going to cause chaos if the kids see it? Are there any obvious distractions? Can you see right into the classroom across the pathway, and that's just going to be a distraction? Do you hear any odd sounds? Is the aircon really noisy? Does the aircon actually work? Check it works. Make sure it doesn't leak and drip on anything. Are there any odd smells? Some older classrooms have leaks, and the only way you'll know that there is a leak is all of a sudden you'll smell mold or something like that. And don't ignore those things. You need to let your principal know if something needs to be fixed. And don't feel like you're being a nuisance doing that. It would be a bigger nuisance if you left it at a whole year and then pieces of the classroom started to fall apart and that needed to be repaired. So make sure you report those kinds of things. And hopefully there's something somewhere in school policies and procedures that gives you all of those processes that you need to follow to do those things. So make sure you talk to your supervisor about doing those things. So now that you've sat down and had a look around everything and kind of got a bit of a kid gauge on the classroom, this is when you can draw a floor plan up. So I try and draw obviously the outline. This is bare basic shapes. Just the outline of it, where your storeroom comes off, where your doors are, if you've got a withdrawal space, anything like that. And then include on that map where your fixtures and things are. So your windows, your doors, any fixed furniture that might be in place, like your interactive whiteboard, or if you have a blackboard in your classroom still. And then look at the viable learning spaces that are in there. So you might have a computer station in there that has to be in that spot because that's where the internet connectivity is. A reading corner. You might have an intensive table, like those jelly bean tables or kidney bean tables, some call them. Those kinds of things might need to be your first priority before designing the rest of the classroom. And then you can look at, the seating and table options for your kids. Now, if you're a brand new teacher, if this is your first year and you have never had any experience with flexible learning or flexible seating, I would just encourage you to go with table groups to start off with, because if you haven't done it yet, it can be quite onerous taking on a whole different pedagogy with a brand new class in your first year of teaching. So, allocate those seats for the kids, get them settled, get you settled while you get to know each other and while you get yourself into a routine as well. So I recommend two different styles. So there's the 4-seater table option or the 6-seater table option. The 6-seater allows for students with glasses to make sure they're facing the board, and there's other particular needs that some kids have that require them to be facing front onto the board as well. Other kids, not so much so. So this is what I mean by the 6-seater option. So you've got 2 desks like this facing each other, and then another desk attached at the back, and then you've got 2 around it. So you'd allocate 6 kids there. So when I did table arrangements like this, I would just then put their names underneath it. In the first couple of weeks, I do that whole, you can pick who you want to sit next to, while I start to gauge who the token kids are that might be better off being split. And then every 5 weeks I would change it. And that would be based on my observation and interaction with the kids too. So they're all obviously facing the front there. That would be your main designated area, your whiteboard or blackboard, or I keep saying blackboard because I guess this is what I did when I still had a blackboard. And then obviously if you want to keep a teacher's desk, no judgment whatsoever. If that's what you want, that's fine. That needs to be in a place in the room where it's not going to interfere with the kids' learning. So back in the day, it would be out the front, kind of in front of the blackboard, so you could see what the kids were all doing. I personally preferred it at the back of the room because I rarely sat at it. It was a place that was out of the way, and it also meant that kids couldn't watch if I was watching them. If I was back there doing something and they were going to muck up, they had no idea if I was watching them or not, so it kind of kept them in check, sort of. So that's a good sort of way to start off with. I know some people like the U shape. If you go onto Google and type in table arrangements, class seating or table seating or student seating, anything like that, you'll end up with a ton of different options. Once you've sorted out all of your table arrangements and seating options that you've got, the next thing you're going to want to do is the classroom displays. And I really, really need to stress that not everything needs to be up on a wall. There's been a lot of articles shared recently about excessive displays in classrooms being overstimulating to some of our students. And the response that I see from people sort of that are unwilling to receive this information are people that go, it's never been a problem for me. I'm going to put my parent hat on for a second and let you know that just because a child copes during the day doesn't mean they're succeeding. And this comes from knowing the days that my own son has come home having had a really anxious day, but he hasn't displayed it for his teacher during the day. It comes out at home, and it comes out in the form of a meltdown, an unexplainable meltdown, because we don't know why he's so stressed. We had no other trigger, no indication to see why he would be having such a stressful day. And it's not till later on, even days or weeks afterwards, that we go back and realize something different happened in that day at school or something was going on. Oh, that's why he had a meltdown that day. Some of those kids will try and hold it together for their teacher, or they'll just hold it together for themselves because they know if they don't, there's a consequence that comes with it, or people don't understand the reaction, or sometimes they find it hard to articulate why they feel the way that they do. So they can't say, I feel overstimulated at the moment because I can hear all of the art displays flapping behind the air conditioner, in front of the air conditioner all day long on that 40-degree day. So not only am I hot and tired and sweaty, all I can hear is all day long, and it's making me stressed. Sometimes they don't realize that's what's making them stressed. So when we say don't go overboard, we're just taking preventative measures. It's not about keeping your room completely empty. It's about knowing exactly what needs to be focused on, what's a priority, and what's the best way the kids can use these things. So I do recommend avoiding cluttered walls and avoiding cluttered roof hangings. Now I had some, but there was only, I'm trying to think, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 bits of string at the top, and I would space them out. They would not be lined up back to back. There would be gaps between it so that your line of sight could still see the rest of the classroom, and the brain pieces those things together as well. It's not one chunk that's blocking out my view of what's there. Another way to do that is also use gaps between your displays in the classroom. So some people like to use borders, those cardboard borders that you can get. Now, if you've got, a plain background, having sort of a pattern border shouldn't be too much there. But if you've got crazy patterns and colors all over the place, the eye is going to find it hard to locate the information that they're looking for and determine what it is that they need to take in. So if you can, I really like those classrooms that have sort of color blocks. That panel is red, that panel is, yellow, that panel is orange, or something like that. Now, a lot of the new classrooms that were made had the green or blue, I want to say felt, but I don't know if that's the actual material that you could sort of stick Velcro to. The reason they chose blue and green, those light blue and green colors, is because research showed that made people more productive. It's a calming color, and you'll often find if you go to a occupational therapist or a speech therapist, they have those colors in there as well. So if you've got those colors and you don't like them, do you know what? Too bad. Sometimes it's not about you. Sometimes it's about what's good for the kids. So if you go into a classroom and there's just rainbow stuff all over the place, that can be a lot for those kids that have sensory needs. So just take those things into account, and you will learn what your kid and what needs they have, and some of those kids might do well in those classrooms. This is not a blanket rule about what can or can't go into your classrooms. It's just about taking into consideration those needs. The creation of your classroom, you want to be prepared for it to change too. Whatever you set up at the beginning of the year, I would not expect that to still be there at the end of the year. Your room should be evolving and changing the same way the kids do. If you're sticking up an alphabet chart, and it's the same alphabet chart in the same spot that's been there and it hasn't changed whatsoever all year long, you need to reflect and think, what was the point of having that up there? Did they actually use that? Was that functional? Was it referred to? Did the kids take it in? If you wholeheartedly think yes, they did, go for it. Keep it there. Do whatever you want with it. But if you reflect on that and think, I don't actually remember a kid looking at that or referring to that or asking if they could go sit near that to use it, maybe it needs to be in a different spot, or you need to be modifying the way that you use it. I like the idea of incorporating themes into things, provided it actually links to learning. There's no point picking, Dr. Seuss things to stick up in your classroom just because you like spots and stripes. If you're actually doing Dr. Seuss texts in the classroom and you're looking at editing using Dr. Seuss and illustrating in the style of Dr. Seuss and all that sort of a thing, then by all means go for it. Make sure it's linking to the learning and student outcomes. I don't recommend completely covering windows. There's a recent discussion we were having at my own school about the history in the development of our eyes, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, but it has something to do with our eyes needing to look to the horizon. It's like back in caveman days when there weren't obstructions in front of them all the time and they were hunting. They were constantly looking out to the horizon for things, whether it was hunting or gathering, I'm assuming. And so it kind of comes back to that. Our kids need to be looking to the horizon. Plus, you want lots of nice natural light in there as well. It's good for us. So, and not directly on the kids, obviously. Sun safety. But yeah, well, either way though, at least it's not blocking views. It's a chance to look out at different things. Even if there is something distracting out there, I know it might sound like I'm just contradicting something I said earlier in the video, but the whole point being is that, our eyes have that opportunity to look out. Oh, student-led. So, I personally don't like seeing classrooms completely set up and ready to go on day one, because it means it's teacher-led, not student-led. The students didn't have any input into it. If your intention though is to set up something and modify it as the kids do things, that's great. That would be definitely a good approach. Think about, your time, your effort, what's going into it. Are you laminating everything with the intention of reusing it for the next 20 years? Or have you laminated it just because it looks nicer? If you know you're going to use it and it's probably not going to get used again for a while, just stick it on cardboard, stick it up and then throw it away. Recycle it because you can always print it again if you want to. I know we say laminating's better, but even laminating has wear and tear over time. It's not always going to look pretty, and you'll see that in some of the things that I've got to show you in my resources that I do use year after year. So some of these things are anchor charts and desk strips. So what I'm going to do now is switch to that video and show you some of the things that I think are really good versions. I've just pulled out a bunch of anchor charts that I recommend. And some of these were school purchase. Some of these are things I've bought over the years or created myself. You can find most of these things online though as well. So this is a desk essentials. So, you might have this on the door when kids are unpacking their bags or at their table so they know what they need to have. And this stops them from going back to their bag to get their sharpener or their scissors or glue or whatever. So that one's handy to have. This is a whole class one. So this is about, what talk we're doing at the moment. And you might have a job allocated for one of the kids to go do this. So, okay, Johnny, go out the front and just put on there that we are doing talk in small groups because, it's guided reading time and that's all we're doing at the moment. And, that can change. All right. I might separate those. So this is this is a writing checklist, and this is for more of an infants class. And this is about, the kids can have one each and use a whiteboard marker to tick this off, or just one at the table to remind themselves of what they're doing. Or, if you've got an older student with some additional needs, this might be their own personalized one. So it's just reminding them that you're going to start your sentence with a capital, there's spaces in between words, punctuation, does it make sense, and matching it to the writing. It's just a checklist. This is more of a kindy, year one resource, just about spelling. You know, what does it start with? This works with our sounds and, you know, getting ideas for writing. This is a desktop word strip, so it's in alphabetical order. So it goes through the A's, B's. So if the child knows what it starts with, that will help them locate, you know, where it is on here. And there's a reminder about our letters there. Oh, I need to write an M. What does that look like again? There it is right there. I know how to do that. Sometimes this is just about jogging their memory. It's not about using it as a copy system and not giving them those, you know, those structures. Sometimes it's just to jog their memory. Here's another letter one. It's got some whiteboard marker on it. I need to clean these. So letters again, and just some basic sight words. And I like the fact that it's got the yellow background on here. So if you've got any students that have, you know, Erlands or dyslexia or anything like that, that supports them, and the blue background as well. This one's more detailed. So going through the alphabet, some basic words that they might need during writing. Maths ones. So I like these number lines here because, and these, learning can be fun, and there's the designer. So there's your 1 to 10. So we can use this for some counting on, counting back, whatever. This one goes up to 30, and I like this because it means that in your class you can differentiate. This kid needs this one, another kid needs that one. And then you've got this one which goes up to 100, but it has all the numbers in between. And I like the fact that it's got the 5 mark here, so we can jump between 5s, and the 10 mark there, so we can jump between 10s, and just use that for some, you know, skip counting or counting on. Always, always, always have a hundreds chart. Having the big one out the front is one thing, but having one right there that a kid can use is even better. And I like getting colored counters, and I like the transparent colored counters so they can still see the number through it. So if you want to do skip counting, they can physically jump the counter if they want to. You can put whiteboard marker on here and wipe it off. With older kids, I recommend getting a hundreds chart that goes to 120. It's very important that they know numbers go beyond 100. We don't just do our working out to 100 and then we're done. It goes beyond. And that process of going 99, 100, 101, and then even further going from 110, 111, 112, that's the part where a lot of them get stuck. So it's important to go up to 120. So I had these made though before I really realized that that's what I liked doing. So you can see some of those things look pretty well used, and I haven't completely cleaned them off of the whiteboard markers from the end of last year when I had kids working in that space, but they're so useful, those ones. And like I said, tried and true. I love those, that style. Twinkle has lots of great resources, whether it's just normal things that you want to display in the classroom or use for kids, resources like that. They have a lot of things for additional needs too, which are really, really good. I highly recommend checking out Twinkle. Ultimately, you don't need to have a Pinterest classroom to be a great teacher. It's great to use Pinterest for inspiration. Don't do it to just mimic what they've got on there though, because what works for another teacher will not necessarily work for you. It might, you might tweak it, you might modify it, you might take one bit of that classroom and go, you know what, I want the exact same thing because I think that would work really well for me. Go for it. But don't aspire to be someone else, aspire to be you. Even if you're a brand new teacher this year, we want to see what you bring to the table, not what you've copied off someone else and then brought to the table. In your room, you'll want to allocate though a teacher's space. So either a pin board or a wall that's easily accessible to you or a casual teacher that comes into the classroom. Things like timetables should go on there, so your class timetable so they could follow it, a playground duty timetable, other rosters that might be up there. If you've got notes that need to be handed out to the kids, if you've got spare notes, like permission notes for excursions and things, you've got spare ones sitting there in case a kid has lost it, calendar reminders, and you might have healthcare plans that need to be hung up for reference, like if you've got kids with anaphylaxis or high asthma needs, something like that, severe asthma. So just have a space. It doesn't have to be huge, just to have those things there, easily accessible and easily seen, because the idea being is that if a casual teacher that's never been at your school before comes into your classroom, they should be able to have a quick glance at that space and get an idea of what's going on in the classroom for the day. Okay, storage. I did do a video on storage and decluttering, so I'll share that. But you know, there's the whole debate whether having student trays versus resource trays. I've done both. The only grade I think it's worthwhile having student trays in is stage 3. The other ones just lose stuff way too often. And you know what? Even stage 3, I'm sure, lose things from time to time. So Otherwise, I have resource trays. So the maths books are all in one tray. The whole class are in one tray. The literacy books are in one. The writing books are in one, because at least that way I can grab out that tray, hand them out, collect them back in the same tray. And if I want to look at it to assess or do something, I just pick out that tray. Having kids have their own trays means you need to go, all right, everyone go get your maths books so I can take them home and do some assessing or make some notes or whatever. And, Johnny forgets to put his book in the tray or whatever. Oh, missed out that one, that kid, or whatever. Plus, not all kids know how to take care of things themselves. And don't misunderstand, these kids that don't take care of their belongings, it's not necessarily because they don't care. Sometimes they don't know how. Sometimes they've come from a home situation where things just aren't taken care of. It needs to be role modeled for them. So by having things in those trays, it keeps a consistent expectation for you put it in there, you open it to the page that I need it, or you close it wherever I want it, and then put it in the tray. And then they can see how you take care of it as well. A bit of role modeling there. There's a bit of debate too about, where you keep your resources in the classroom. So a lot of teachers really stock up and keep things in their storeroom. Some teachers don't have a storeroom. For those of you out there that have a storeroom, please be grateful, because there's a lot of teachers out there that don't have one. And trust me, it's hard. Having things in cupboards and things like that too. So like I said, if you've got things in your school, resources in the math storeroom or whatever, just borrow it for the week that you need it and then return it, because it means another teacher gets to use it and you don't have to worry about storing it, the space that needs to be in there. There's lots of great cases for dice, separating dice, containers that will hold stacks of playing cards. Those things are all awesome. So if you can store them in a way that's readily accessible, but kind of out of the way, keeps the room looking a bit open, a bit more accessible, and then kids aren't, tripping over things and it just doesn't get cluttered. So it depends on your room. So have a look around your room and decide, does something actually need to be out where the kids can just grab it, or can it be a cupboard where the kids can open and grab it, or does it need to go in my storeroom because we're not using it for another 4 weeks? Tote trays though, I'm going to show you a quick video of the tote trays that I like. These are tote trays that you can get for, I think it's $20 for a set. You can get these from the Reject Shop. They come with a lid. I like these because they will hold exercise books in there perfectly. And obviously it's got the lid, so if you want to take a few of them home and stack it up, they all fit in there beautifully. Needs a bit of a wash. But they also fit into standard little cubby holes here, with a little bit of space there. It doesn't fit in perfectly, but when you have a few of those lined up, it just looks a bit nicer. It's that nice purple color, and you can, fit a label across the front there too. Now, after I videoed that, I did go to the Reject Shop for some other things, and I saw those trays there. Yes, $20 for a set of 6, and you can get different colors now too. So I think the set that I saw was 2 purple, 2 green, and 2 blue. I think, don't hold me to that, but they're there, pack of 6 with the lids. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to quickly show you some other random videos that I took in my learning space. So I've got information about my prize box, how I store my sight words, where I keep my pens for marking, dictionary thesaurus, stencil books, which are awesome, and what I keep my art book for. Let me have a look at that. So this is where I store my Dolce sight word cards. I have them in little cookbook bags with labels on them. So this is pre-primary. It's got the list of the words that should be in the bag, and they're all printed and laminated, and it just goes in order. So then first grade, I've got in green. This follows their colour coding system, and now I'm ruining it. And then orange, third grade blue, some more. And then the primary ones are in red, and then it goes on to nouns, and that's a much bigger pile that's in there. So it's just easy to store, and I have 2 sets of these. So I have one set in the box so I can use them for flashcards. Sit down, let's do 60 seconds of, some sight words, and then I have other ones that I can use to put up on the word wall or on different word displays. When it comes to marking work, I have a specific pencil case for it. I've got random stickers in there ready to go. These ones you can get for $2 from any junk shop. And then I have coloured pens. I always mark in coloured pens just because it makes it stand out, it's interesting, and makes it fun. This is my prize box, and this has lasted me a couple of years actually. It's pretty sturdy. These are just gift boxes that you can buy from any junk shop. I think it cost me about $5 to get a nice fair size sturdy one, and it's just got prizes in there. So you know, you get little Mentos packets. No, these have not been in there for 2 years. I've just refilled it. You know, cheap fidget spinner. You can get these for $1 now from some places. Quick quickie pens, pencils with the erasers on top. I've got some Pokemon cards in here. You know, magnifying glass. You know, some of these kids really like these things. A spinner, another funny pen, bubbles. Bubbles are always a hit. What else have I got in there? Oh, this is cool. It's a highlighter. I wonder if I can pull it out with one hand. Oh, yes, I can. See, it's a highlighter, but it looks like an ice cream. So tons of stuff in there. Lots of stickers. Oh, another highlighter. That's a cute one. Things from Kmart or Junk Shop or, you know, Party Warehouse. Always a book, hardcover, softcover, dictionary. Always. It's important to model this. So I have my little one here. Look how worn out it is. For when we come across a word where we go, you know what, I'm not sure if that's spelled correctly, or I don't know what the meaning is, I'm going to role model looking this up in the dictionary and checking it. And a thesaurus. So this is just a little pencil holder that I got years ago, and it sits in there on my desk. That usually sits somewhere within reach, and this is on the shelf somewhere. The kids love this because it's old, it's heavy, it looks, you know, interesting. This is a proper quality dictionary, this one. So, you know, we'll go like, and you can see it's been fairly worn as well throughout the years. I will role model looking things up in this dictionary to confirm something. And you'll often see kids asking, can I look at the dictionary, please? Same with an old atlas. Kids love those things. And if you can get yourself a globe, you will find them staring at it. They love looking around the globe and trying to pronounce things and figure out what countries go with what. And I've got another one here too. From Scholastic, you can order these from Book Club. Oh, open it up. These ones, and you can get the ones that have the flags around it as well, and they love looking at these things. They will just stare and talk for ages. This will be one of the best investments you ever make. You can get these things in Book Club. This is an older one. These lettering books. So these are the things that kids can trace letters in. These are great for title pages or projects or just activities you're doing in class, because there will be kids in there that go, I don't know how to do bubble writing, and then just won't even try. But if you give them something to trace, and this in itself is a great fine motor activity, just being really particular about what it is that they're tracing. And sometimes you'll get those kids that go, you know what, I really want that detail. I'm going to go hold it up against a window and get the light of the window to be able to do it. I like this one because it's got designs in there that they can trace, pictures that they can trace, borders, and it's just that little bit of oomph that they need to gain the confidence to then do it themselves the next time. You know, they might try and do a title page or something with these things for the first couple of books, and then that third book they're going to go, I'm going to try it myself. I'm going to try freehanding. And it's like any other scaffold that we give our kids. We can't expect them to just be creative on the first try. Some kids need some support, some encouragement, and some scaffolding to be able to do that. So, you know, these are just, these are the best. And, you know, don't tell anyone, but so you've got enough in the class, I photocopy them and then have copies in the classroom. But you didn't hear that from me. Ever since I started teaching, I kept this little scrapbook, and in here is where I keep my role modeling for artwork. So, you know, when I do my model for the kids on whatever it is that we're doing, so this was a sketch outside, I glue it in here because it's a good reminder of things that I've done in the past if I want to go back to an old idea. And the kids like looking at this as well and seeing what I've done with other classes over the years. So that was a watercolor, Johnny Howard, Rose. Those were different designs we're working on with peer support. This was some screen printing, bit of a Van Gogh. This was working on portraits. I think that was year 6, 2007. Yeah, that was year 6. Some collaging, more portraits. Oh, that was a waxy thing that just does not want to stick down, which has now ruined that one. More portraits. We did lots of portraits. More waxy stuff. more screen printing, painting. Now, obviously, everything I do wouldn't go in here. Can't always fit the big artworks, that sort of a thing. Sometimes you forget, but it's good to go back and look at some of the things that we've done. And I think it's important that you sit down and do these things with the kids too, that they physically see you doing it, that they see you keeping it and valuing it. And that's another thing for it too. The kids realize that art is something that's valuable. It's not something we do and then throw away or, you know, take home and stick on the fridge for a week. It's something that I treasure for years. So these are, oh, I've got some more at the back here now to stick in from some screen printing that I did with year 6 for our mock high school day. So that was screen printing in different colors there to show them what that looked like. So that might be an idea for you too. So those are just random things that I guess I've kept in routine over the years. So coming to the last part now of the video is the specialty items. So you might want specialty items for your classroom. You might not be quite engaging with flexible learning or flexible seating yet, but you want some things like maybe gym balls, bean bags, some cushions or carpets. I love carpets because just having a carpet down there creates a learning space. Kids go sit on the circle carpet. Easy. You guys can go do your familiar reader on the rectangle carpet. It kind of segments the room in a way, and you know, they're easy to clean. You take them outside, shake them off, get a dust buster. Pretty good. So when it comes to those things though, less is more. You don't need a gym ball for every single kid. Just start with 2 and set some rules and expectations about it, and make sure you get some permission from your supervisor or your principal before you bring those things into the school. It's always good to ask. You might have read the policies and procedures and all that sort of a thing, but you know, it's always polite to just check. And be prepared for things to be broken. You're going to buy lots and lots of things for your classroom. Things will break. Be prepared for that. Okay, before we sign off today, key things that I think you should remember. It's your classroom and you should be very, very proud of it. You should take ownership over it, but that also means, you know, remembering that it's on display, that you are on display to the community, to parents, whether it's photos on the school website, in the school newsletter, whether it's them at the door picking up their kids, you need to be on display. So I recommend keeping it clean and tidy as much as possible. Instill this in the kids. Train them to do it. They need to be picking up, not at the end of the day, after every single session. 10 o'clock before fruit break, let's tidy up. Pencil on the floor, chair not tucked in, let's tidy up. Set those expectations high because then it becomes habit and you don't need to hound them for it later on. Having things ready to use. So if you've got a pencil sharpener and you've got, you know, your kindy and year 1 go through pencils pretty quickly, just have that available so you can go, get it done. You don't have to go digging that thing out of the storeroom every time you need it. And just be open and inviting. I highly recommend keeping your door open during learning. And there's a bunch of teachers out there right now going, but I've got a runner. I've had runners too, I know. If you need to keep your door closed, keep it closed. It's not a judgment. But if you can, I prefer to have things open. The principal loves it when they get to walk by and see what you're learning about. They don't always have time to pop in and join you and do things like that, but they want to see what's going on. Your supervisor does, anyone does. Keep in mind though that classroom, even though it's yours, it's not just yours to use. You might have the RFF teacher in there, you might have the community languages teacher, support teacher, a casual teacher, you'll have parents and guests, that sort of a thing. So make sure, you know, things are where they should be. Remember, there's no perfect classroom, only a right space, and that's the right space that works for you and your kids. You need to be prepared for things to go wrong. Kids will spill, splat and spew in that classroom. And sometimes you will too, depending on the day that you're having. Don't be afraid of it. Don't worry if there's a spot on your carpet. It happens. You know, a classroom is a home away from home for you and for your kids. The goal isn't to be pretty perfect or the most Pinterest-worthy classroom. The goal is just to learn what works well and ensure that great things can happen in your classroom. Be willing to make changes. If things aren't working, reflect on that and own it. And if you get suggestions from your supervisor or even from a colleague, it's not necessarily a judgment. It could just be because we've all been there before and we want to help. You know, learn and share. Ask if you can see other classrooms, you know, just pop your head in and visit. Some of my absolute best learning, I think, was when I was doing support teacher role and I got to be in a variety of classrooms, K to 6, and I just got to see how different things happen. And there would be some classrooms I'd walk in and go, oh, I never thought of doing it that way. That's a really good idea. Can I steal that? And teachers will always go, yeah, here it is. Use it. It's great. Okay, I'll leave it there because I'm sure this is now a very long video. So If this was worthwhile for you and you think you're gonna give it a good go of setting up your classroom, thumbs up would be much appreciated. I'm going to pop my button down here, so if you haven't subscribed yet, that's the button that you click to subscribe. I'll put my other back to school series at the top here, and I look forward to seeing you in one of the next videos, which is either programming or accreditation. See ya.